and conditions, and that's it. Now, users that are going to be able to, and we're going to go to the system itself now, users that will have the ability to request out prior authorizations, fulfill prior authorizations, and work on prior authorizations are going to be providers. So providers who are set as doctors, mid-level with approval, mid-level without approval, also prescribers on behalf of. Let me go ahead and pause my screen first. Let me go ahead and show everyone where it's going to be, where that setting is. So again, there isn't necessarily a setting or a setup that you have to do, but you just have to make sure that on the admin section, so give me just one second. On the admin section in your user maintenance, so this would be from an administrative standpoint. So give me just one second, everyone. And I'll share my screen again. But here I'm logged in as my super user. From the super user just has to make sure that in the admin section, under user maintenance, users who will be requesting or completing PAs need to be set as doctors, mid-level without approval, mid-level with approval, or prescribers on behalf of. If you have any questions, definitely let us know. But again, this is from the super user standpoint. So again, the super user would just need to go ahead and make sure that there is some type of pharmacy role. Now, to complete a prior authorization, so you can task out your prior authorization to a user to work on. If they're just going to be working on the prior authorization, so the provider or the prescriber is requesting for the prior authorization, but you want to task it out to another user to complete it, you don't necessarily have to set them as a prescriber on behalf of. So let's go ahead and say, for example, you have an MA that we don't want them to be able to prescribe medications for our patients, but we want them to be able to complete the prior authorization request form, or we want them to work on the prior authorization request form. We would definitely want to make sure that they're set as an admin clerk. Or if you have somebody that works solely on authorizations only, so a user that calls for prior authorization request, then you do want to make sure that they're set as an admin clerk. But for users who want to request for a prior authorization, the start, they would have to be set as prescriber on behalf of, mid-level with approval, mid-level without approval, or doctor. And if that doesn't make sense, definitely let us know, and we'll go more in depth in it. Now, as long as those users who are requesting the prior authorizations are set as prescribers on behalf of and above, at that point, they'll log in. Once they log in, when they go to prescribe a medication, to the right, the prior authorization or the CoverMyMeds section will go ahead and display. So this is going to be on the first time when you prescribe out a medication. From here, if you haven't agreed to the terms and conditions, all you'll have to do is just go ahead and check mark it and say that you agree to terms and conditions, and you're all set up. So truly, again, there's no real setup. You just have to make sure that those settings are set in place so that when you go to use the CoverMyMeds, it'll be available for you. So for the CoverMyMeds section or the prior authorization section, the way that you're going to use it is just as normal. When you're in the medication list, or let's go ahead and go into an encounter. Let's do this from an encounter. So here I'm within an encounter. I know that I'm within an encounter because the SOAP is active. I can go to Plan. I can go to Prescribe. Once I go to Prescribe, I'll scroll down and I'll say New Medication. Once I say New Medication, I'll go ahead and search for my medication. So just like normal, and then I'll select my medication. Once I select my medication, just as normal again, I'll go ahead and enter in how the patient will be taking the medication per sitting. So we'll say 1 tablet by mouth, and we'll say daily. Our duration, we'll say 10 days. And once we're completed entering in the prescription information, we'll go ahead and say save and e-prescribe. Once we say save and e-prescribe, it'll move us into the transmitting section. Before you transmit the medication, what you'll do is you'll look in the prior authorization section. So again, this is after you've already agreed to the terms and conditions. But over to the right, there'll be a prior authorization section. If CoverMyMeds determines that a prior authorization is required, the system will go ahead and state that a prior authorization is required. If a prior authorization is not required, it'll state that it's not required. And if it's unable to determine if a PA is required or not, it'll go ahead and let you know that a PA is unable to be determined. But if you feel that you need a prior authorization based on the patient's plan, based on the medication itself, you can always go ahead and bypass it and create your prior authorization. So it's not based on what CoverMyMeds thinks. This is only a recommendation, so take it as that. So if CoverMyMeds does notice that a prior authorization was required in the past, based on the medication itself, then they'll go ahead and recommend to you that a medication, a prior authorization is required for this medication. In this section here, CoverMyMeds does run based off of data acquired by prescriptions that were done by other offices, and they compile it all together and basically say there has been a history, a large history, or a history of prior authorizations being requested for this medication. So we're going to recommend that a prior authorization is required. So again, it's based off of the medication itself. CoverMyMeds houses all that data, and they just basically say, for this specific medication, we've noticed a trend of prior authorization requests, so we recommend to you a prior authorization. Again, use it as that as a recommendation. To create the prior authorization, we'll go ahead and say create. Once we say create, if the insurance company is on file and CoverMyMeds does have the forms required for that specific insurance company, the system will go ahead and provide you with a recommended form. Now, you can always change the form if needed. If you notice that that form isn't the form that you want to use, you can always go ahead and search for it. But again, it's based off of insurance that's loaded into the patient's chart, and it's going to be based off of the primary insurance company. So here's the reason why I say that is because if the patient has, let's say, their primary insurance company is not what they use to fill their medication, if they have a different insurance company, then here you can change it to a different form. But again, it's going to be based off of the primary insurance company that CoverMyMeds will pull that specific form. But from here, you can either search for it, but again, if the insurance is already preloaded, then CoverMyMeds will give you a recommendation of the form to use. The reason why mine didn't pop up is because mine's a demo system, but in your live systems with your live patient data, it will automatically pull up. Here, I'll go ahead and select the form. I'll go ahead and say save because I'm going to use this form. And items will go ahead and autofill based off of the patient demographics. And then anything that's required to have fill in will be marked in red. So here we'll say 10 tablets. We'll scroll down. All of our information is automatically filled in. And now at this point here, we can save it. So we can save the information that's preloaded. And we can either go ahead and close it out and leave it open and a staff member can come back and work on it, or we can send it directly to the plan. So saving is just basically saving the information that you entered in. Send to plan will be to send it directly to the insurance company. And if you close it, it'll go ahead and be saved in your pharmacy alerts. And we'll take a look at that in a bit. Now, if you don't know what, so we're going to cancel this real quick. And let's go ahead and just use this one again. So let's say that you don't know which form to use. You're a provider, you're a medical staff. This isn't your specialty in your office to do. If you don't know what form to use, but you know that a prior authorization is required, you can always go ahead and say create task, and you can send it off to a staff member with any notations and say save, and that'll go ahead and send off a task to the staff member for them to be able to work on the prior authorization request. But once you've completed it, once you're ready to go ahead and prescribe the medication, you can say transmit, and that'll transmit the medication. So basically we took care of two things. We created the prior authorization, sent it to the plan, or we tasked it out to a staff member, and then finally we went ahead and transmitted the medication to the pharmacy. Any prior authorizations, whether if you sent it to the plan or if you tasked it out to a staff member or you just left it open, will be able to be found in the RX bottle section. So in the top right-hand corner, if you click on the RX bottle, this is going to be your pharmacy alert section. And you'll have a section for prior authorizations. Staff members who are admin clerks can come into this section. So admin clerks and above can come into this section. And let me switch to right here. Staff members are going to be able to come into this section here and work on the authorizations. So if you're wanting to work on the authorization, click on the authorization ID number to open up the authorization request, or click on the patient's name to go to the patient's chart. So here, let's go and take a look at one with a form. So here I can click on it, I can switch the forms, I can enter in additional information, and then I'll go ahead and save it, and once I save it, the button that says send to plan will go ahead and pop up. Now in this section here, you'll have several different statuses to work from. Sent to plan states that you sent that prior authorization to the insurance company. New or awaiting actions are going to be any ones that have not been submitted to the plan or have not been submitted out, have not been worked on. So staff members can go ahead and filter out by new, waiting for action. Determined are going to be any determination from the insurance company itself. So if CoverMyMeds is connected with the insurance company, and again, they are connected to 88% of payers across the nation. If they are connected with it, then the insurance company will go ahead and send a approval, a denial, or needs more information. So you'll either have approved, so your determinations could be either approved, denied, or needs more information / awaiting action. And if it needs additional information or more action, then, or I'm sorry, actually it's going to say response needed. So response needed, it's not needs more information. So it's going to be response needed. If it does need more information, your staff members can go ahead and go into the prior authorization itself. The payer will go ahead and provide you with the reasons why they need more information. So they'll just go ahead and review what's already entered in, and as they scroll down to the bottom, the payer will go ahead and state what questions they're asking for. They'll also have the ability to go ahead and upload any documents, any images, any encounter notes, things like that. So any additional information that they're requesting for. And they will definitely go ahead over to the left, state why they need more information and what information they need. So in the notes section, the payer will go ahead and state what information they need from you. Once you've completed their questionnaire and also uploaded the encounter note or any supporting notations, you can say send to plan, and everything will be sent out electronically. Any attachments, anything that you filled out, everything will be sent out electronically. All right. So a few things. So that's pretty much the CoverMyMeds section. It's pretty basic, pretty simple. A few questions that have been brought up in past webinars I do want to cover. If you send a medication out, and let's say that you didn't attach a prior authorization. So here's an example. I prescribe a medication for this patient, so I'm going to go to, let's go through the encounter section. So I go to plan, I go to prescribe. I go to prescribe this medication for the patient, and I say save and e-prescribe. I click transmit, and I send it to the pharmacy, and the pharmacy calls back and says, hey, we need a prior authorization for this medication that you're prescribing out for the patient. Or let's say that you haven't activated your CoverMyMeds section, you're waiting for today's webinar, right? If you need to go back and add in a prior authorization, you can definitely do so. And you can also send it to the payer itself at the same time. The workflow is a little bit different. You're going to want to go to the patient's chart, and you can just go straight to medication list. Find the medication that you prescribed out. Click on the SIG information. Act as if you're about to prescribe it out. So we'll say save and e-prescribe. And then go ahead and create your prior authorization. Once you create your prior authorization, whether if you task it out to a staff member, whether if you fill it out and you just send it to the plan, or you save it for the staff member to come back and complete, you can do so, and then before you're done, just click cancel. So that's how you'll be able to go back and create a prior authorization for for patients in the past. So again, we went to the patient's chart, we went to medication list. We clicked on the SIG information of the medication that we were prescribing out. We said save and e-prescribe. Over to the right, we'll go ahead and create either a task, either the prior authorization request, or we'll go ahead and save the form for a staff member to come back and work on. But after we do that, we'll go ahead and cancel the prescription. So we're never really sending out the prescription. We're only sending out the PA. All right. So let's see if anybody has any questions. Casey, thanks so much for being here to help.
There are a couple in the queue.
All right.
Will CoverMyMeds requests come through NextGen? So now I have only one place to look. If so, where do we look in NextGen to complete them?
Unfortunately not. So that's a great question. So the question is basically, you have CoverMyMeds, you signed up for CoverMyMeds through their website, and now you're going to be using CoverMyMeds in our system. If a request is sent from the pharmacy to complete a EPA, right, an electronic PA, it's going to go to the CoverMyMeds website, but it won't come into our system. If you want to complete it in our system, you'll just follow the same workflow. Go to the patient's chart, go to medication list, click on the SIG, click Save and e-prescribe, and then complete the form from here. Again, it's not going to transfer into our system, but you can always go back and add in a electronic PA from the system and then submit it out. So that's a great question.
Okay. If we set them to admin, can they do all major authorizations, or do they have to have them sent to them?
They can do all major authorizations. So I think that the question more is for controlled substances. So yes, even with controlled substances, they'll be able to work on controlled substances and also any regular e-prescriptions too as well, as long as they have admin clerk rights and they have access to your pharmacy alerts, and they'll have access to prior authorizations.
Let's see. A little, sorry, bear with me for just a second. Translating. Okay, so whatever it was that you were, when the question came in, sorry, that was what you were currently explaining, how to do the PA while we are prescribing medications, which adds more to the process. Will the prior authorization coming into the office from CoverMyMeds also be processed through NextGen?
No, so that's the first question, basically the same first question. So unfortunately not. Any prior authorizations that go directly to CoverMyMeds will not translate into our system, but you can work from our system to submit out the electronic prior authorization. And again, it's going to be through the same workflow. You'll go to the patient's chart, go to medication list, click on the SIG information, click Save and e-prescribe, and then create your prior authorization from here. It would be a better workflow to do it from here because then everything's here, right? You'll be able to search for your prior authorization. You'll be able to look at the prior authorizations. When was it sent out? Also, at this point, right, if the payer denies the prior authorization, you'll receive the notification within our system. It's just the only notification you won't receive in our system is if the pharmacy or the insurance company requires a prior authorization. But if the insurance company requires additional information on the prior authorization, then it'll transfer in here and it'll be set as needs response. So let's go take a look at it. Right here, let's do this one right here. So it'll be set as need response or response needed, and it'll tell you what the insurance company is looking for. So yes, you're correct that there's a little bit more work where you look on CoverMyMeds and then create it here. But on the long term, it's shorter, because on the long term, you'll be able to upload files. You'll be able to answer questions. You'll be able to receive responses directly from the payer, directly through the system, and everything will be already put into the system. And it's going to be one place that you just have to look for your authorizations.
Okay. Is there a way to set up notifications to let you know when more information or determination has been made, or do we have to just keep checking under the prescriptions tab?
Not at this time. So at this time, you would want to go ahead and check, just like your pharmacy alerts for your renewals or your refill requests from the pharmacy itself. You do want to go ahead and check on there. But I think that's a great idea, and I think that should be an idea to be placed into the success community for alerts to pop in to your tasks and messages, something like that. Response is needed from your office, from the payer.
How do I attach an encounter note?
Okay, so what you can always do is this. So you can always go to the encounter itself, right? I'm going to sign off this encounter just so that it's signed, and we can go ahead and pull it. So this encounter has been signed, right? The first thing that your staff is going to want to do is they're going to want to go ahead and go into the signed encounter. So we go to the patient's chart. Once we go to the patient's chart, we can click on clinical summary, and we can say export PDF. Once we export the PDF, you'll have your clinical note with your electronically signed signature on the left side, so this is from the provider, right? And then we can go to our pharmacy alerts. So we can click on the RX bottle icon on top right-hand corner, go to prior authorizations, find the prior authorization that needs more information, and then as we scroll down, if encounter notes or if any other documentation is required, at the bottom you could say, you can find upload supporting documents below. So it must be a picture or it must be a PDF. That's why I'm having you guys download it. So here we go ahead and say browse. And let's go to downloads. And so we can grab it and say open. Once we say open, we can go ahead and say send to plan, and that'll send any information that you've entered in, and also any attached items.